Girls need to be out there. There is a special place in hell for these grooming gang monsters who abused a girl as young as 11 years old. Today, Mohammed Amar, Yasser Ajaib, Mohammed Zamir Sadiq, Mohammed Siab, Abid Sadiq, Tahir Yassin and Ramin Bari were sentenced to a combined total of 106 years in prison. What they...
Now that might seem a lot, but when you divide that 106 by 6 people, what's you get again? Just a second. Oh yeah, 15 years. And with kind of like British law, you do like maybe half your sentence and then get out on a quarter of your sentence on good behaviour. So they'll do maybe like 4 years. 4 years. And then wait till you hear what these monsters, and you notice something very similar about them. Very similar. Don't they look totally British to you? Yeah.
It is absolutely disgusting. But you know what else is disgusting? The lack of media coverage. GB News' Charlie Peters was the only broadcast reporter present yesterday as the brave survivors gave their statements. The BBC didn't want to know, not for the first time. One of the girls was groomed near a primary school where they plied her with drugs and alcohol.
Of course the BBC doesn't want to know. If these were 5 British men sitting in a court who had sexually abused girls from Gaza, yeah, they'd have probably got about 300 years. But because, like, it's because this is white girls this has happened to, and it's been going on for years. There's now reckon there's over a million white British girls who they have done this to. They've even murdered some of them, burned them alive in their homes.
They ferried her around the country so other predators could use and abuse her and others. One said, "I was only 11. You made me do a test to see if I was still a virgin or not. At that moment, my abuse started. You made it sound like it was a crime to be a virgin. You made me feel ashamed of being a virgin. That same day, you sent me off and forced me to commit a sexual act, and my innocence was stolen. You started to pass me around as if I was a fresh piece of meat, man to man, city to city. All 5 of you played a massive part in exploiting me. My little childlike body, I was 12, in the back of a taxi. To you, it didn't last long. To me, it lasted a lifetime. I was scared. When you raped me, you made sure you did it properly."
That's horrendous, but there's a moral to the story there. It shows you that these guys are 2 pump chumps, you know. But like, how what? Like, they're passing her around from different towns to different men. She's 11 years old. How do you feel if that was your daughter and that was happening to her? And these people were so dangerous because they had killed people. So, like, what are you going to do and say to your mum? Because obviously, personally, if it was me, I'd be round banging on their door, wanting to like square go with a sick perv that did that to my kid. But then, like, what would I achieve? I'd probably go home, and like my whole family and myself would be killed because they'd burn us alive in our homes.
I've never felt pain like that before in my life. Another survivor says that she still wakes up screaming in the night. You know what else I find absolutely insane about this? The families of the scumbags who did this were in court, and apparently they were crying, tutting, shaking their heads and moaning when their relatives got long prison sentences. Like they were the victims here.
You're joking. Their relatives are sitting there weeping that their sons are going to prison for raping minors and not just like one minor. In this case, this particular one, but millions of them, millions. And then they wonder why certain communities don't integrate. Like in Britain, you've got the Jewish community integrate, the Sikh community integrate, the Hindu community integrate. I'm just you got the Hare Krishna people. You've got all sorts. The only ones that don't integrate is Muslims, and it's because their book tells them that we are lower than scum and they cannot be friends with us. And so what do you think they think about our girls? They think nothing. As you just heard there, they just pass it around like a piece of meat. Honestly, horrible. Why did our government ever think it was a good idea to let these people in who come from a culture where stealing Hindu girls from India, from their families, then marrying them and forcing them to convert to Islam? When did it become okay to bring a culture like that over to Britain? And this is why I bang on and on and on and on so much about this subject, because our cultures are incompatible. They believe in chopping people's heads off. They believe in chopping if you get caught, like when you're younger, for example, you've been nicked a pack of Hubba Bubba. Do you know what would happen to that kid? He'd be dragged out to what used to refer to as Chop Square, and his hand would be cut off by a sword, his right hand, then his left foot. Or it just could be worse, like they could like stone you to death. There was one family whose son had an indiscretion and had slept with another girl out of wedlock. And because he was the only son and could carry the name of the family, do you know what they did? They took their 7-year-old daughter, an innocent victim, buried her halfway up to her waist in the ground, and stoned her, and there was brain matter, everything, everywhere. All because they didn't want to kill their precious son because he carries name. So what? What, his innocent sister who's done nothing wrong, she deserves to die? And then there's like the beheadings as well. The fact that like they hang people off of cranes. It's a true saying, not all cultures are the same. And these are fundamental religious laws that these people believe in, that they don't believe that their book can be changed, even though there's about 38 different Qurans out there. They'll argue with you till you're blue in the face that there's only one Quran and it's perfectly preserved. It's a bunch of lies. But like they follow this Sharia to the T. And yeah, you can't live in a civilized country like Britain, the US, etc., Europe, when your culture is as barbaric as this. And if you think like theirs is barbaric, maybe queers for Palestine, why don't you try heading over to Gaza? Because I'll tell you exactly what they do to you. Chuck you off a building. Oh, wait there now. There's no buildings left for them to chuck you off of. They'd find somewhere, I'm sure. And these like people are more radicalised than the ones we've got, where they tie their political opponents alive by the feet and then drag them through the streets on this hard, gravelly ground, shredding the body. I've seen the videos, shredding their bodies until they're dead. How painful is that a way to die? And these are the people that everybody feels sorry for.
Apparently, some of the female relatives were crying. One lad shouted, "I love you, Dad," as his monster of a father was led away. Another stormed out.
I wouldn't have shouted, "I love you, Dad." I would have shouted, "Burn in hell, you POS." But of course, in Islam, it's all right. I mean, what did their prophet marry? A 6-year-old. A 6-year-old. So yeah, to them, prepubescent girls are allowed, young girls are allowed, and if they don't think they've done anything wrong, then they come to Britain and realise that pedophilia is frowned against big time. But they do it anyway because that's their culture. Then when they're caught, their families like blubbering away like babies. "We stand by you, we stand by you." Because they're following their own culture and they don't believe that him getting prison is fair justice, because in their book it's okay to rape children.
Slammed a door. Their relatives are behind bars, but it's their victims who have the real life sentence. Maybe they should think about that. This has been going on in Rotherham for decades. These victims had to wait about 22 years for justice. Why? Well, South Yorkshire Police previously admitted to not acting on reports of crimes because they didn't want to stoke racial tensions. Now, the way I look at that is that some people somewhere decided that it was more preferable for young girls to be raped and abused than to run the risk of being called a racist. Rotherham, Rochdale.
Oh, don't forget the fact, Patrick, that when the girls did try to go to the police, these little tiny like girls, 11 years old and stuff, the police dismissed them and called them slags. That's what they did. And then they didn't want to rock the boat because they know if they even arrested one of these guys, because of their culture, we seen it after, like, yeah, we seen British people riot and that wasn't good, but we also seen them riot out with bloody samurai swords and hatchets and stuff like that, beating an old man out outside a pub, and no arrests, absolutely no arrests. So they know if they stoke the tension, that these barbarians will kick off. But what you barbarians forget is this is our country, not yours. And if you seem to think we're going to go down with a fight, you're very much mistaken. I know, like, the English lads and that can handle themselves, but yeah, you try going up against an angry Irishman or an angry Scot, like, we'll personally duct tape you to your dinghy boat, poke a hole in it and send it out to sea, because I've heard lately there's a great white shark floating around those waters, and then hopefully it can bite you in half, because that's what you deserve.
Aylesbury, Derby, Oxford, Newcastle, the list goes on and on and on.
And that the Rotherham case wasn't just like the only case it happened in. Like, as like Patrick Christie just said, It was happening in every single town in England. Hence why it's like up to like 1 million girls that this happened to. And for them to take 20 years for them even to arrest these POSs sickens me. It sickens me. And they've not even deported one of them. Not one of them have been deported. Some of them might be British citizens, but all of them have got an immigration, like a kind of like a visa. Why not deport them? Do you know what one of them had the audacity to say? I can't leave because like my son lives here and I help support him. So it's alright for you to want to care for your son, you old decrepit piece of shit. But it's perfectly fine for you to sexually abuse and ruin an 11-year-old's life. Some of the girls weren't even 11. There's girls as young as 9 they did this to. They're monsters. Why do we even have these people in our country? Like, they say, like, all cultures are different, but they're not all the same. And in this case, like, this culture needs to go. And I'm not being Islamic. You do have some really great Muslims and that out there that don't participate in this kind of nonsense. But where's their religious clerics? Because these animals listen to these guys. They listen to them. Where are they standing up and saying that this is wrong? None of them have. Absolutely none of them have. So they must condone it as well. I mean, I've heard like them even say, when we take over Britain. What the hell do you mean when you take over Britain? Do you seriously think we Brits are going to allow that to happen? Absolutely not. We've been invaded so many times and fought back. The Roman army couldn't even get into Scotland because they were terrified of us. So they built a wall to try and wall us in because they couldn't go up any further north. And they were one of the best like fighting battalions in the world. Yet somehow or other they did not dare venture into Scotland. It sickens me.
This is just another one of those issues in Britain that we can see happening right before our eyes, but politicians and the establishment media don't want you to talk about it. Well, not on our watch. Let's get our thoughts from our panel this evening. I'm joined by royal journalist Sarah Louise Robertson. I've got political commentator and GB News host Alex Armstrong and the former elected mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. I'll come to you first on this, Alex. Yeah, this is just